Okay, as I was saying in the last video, when the Soviet Union disappeared, there was a new balance of power in the international arena, and there were few countries that remained with the communist ideology and the Soviet doctrine, and one of them was North Korea, a poor country that didn't have its big shield of the Soviet Union and was challenging the Western ideology and Western hegemony that was burned or there was that was burning in that year. The continued the continuous search for nuclear weapons by a poor country like North Korea is explained by the fact that these are the only things that assures Korea that they're not going to be attacked. So for North Korea, now that its biggest ally disappear, now that it's alone, the only way they see for surviving is to have weapons, is to have nuclear weapons, the biggest weapon, to say to the others like, if you come to attack me, I'm going to attack you worst. If you destroy me, I'm going to destroy you worst, creating a rational thought by uh, by depending on nuclear weapons as the only solution for being an independent state from Western and United States influence. From a realistic point of view, North Korea does not trust the goodwill of the other nations, and from rational thinking, it prepares and continues its arms race to ensure its existence in the international arena by ensuring a greater balance of power. Now, I have speak about realism in the North Korean crisis, but what is realism? Realism is quite open, but here we're gonna understand it as the realist theory is a school of thought which holds the view that international politics is nothing but power politics. The theory posits that the nature of the international system reflects an emphasis on power because power is the currency of international politics. Remember that I'm talking about power in terms of arms, weapons, and power of make the others do what you want, the other countries. Because the main actors for realists are the states, are the countries. So in this conflict, we have these four actors. First, we have North Korea, that is the main actor. This state reacts in an aggressive way by pushing its nuclear program after its shield disappears. The Soviet Union was the shield of North Korea. The state used to have power, weapons, that assures their maintenance in the international arena. The maintenance is the North Korean maintenance and the Soviet maintenance. The U.S. U.S. is North Korea's biggest threat, a country with a big amount of nuclear destruction power. North Korea is also a threat to them and their goal to be the hegemonic ruler power in the arena. And last, we have South Korea, the endless war between Koreas. This state unite the US and most Western countries, represent a constant threat and latent fear to maintain the North Korean state. Now, there are also other states involved as China and other countries as France and Japan, but the main actors to understand the conflict are these four and their view of and their search for power. Now we have the constructivist theory perspective. From this perspective, We can argue that all the dynamics changed after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In this new world, there was a ruling all-powerful state, and the US forged an identity as the biggest dominant power in the arena. They were seen as the most powerful country state in the world. The balance of power was affected until the point that there was just one powerful country and its allies. At the same point, however, post-Soviet countries and their allies were in economic crisis, and none of them dared to challenge the hegemonic US and Western power, except for North Korea. North Korea, a small and poor country, but with nuclear centrals. That was the real advantage. At that moment, North Korea started getting isolated and began creating an image of themselves as capable of challenging country. They were the country that can challenge the most powerful power in the international arena. They were a small, even poor, but dangerous one if other countries decide to attack them. And this is how they start creating their own image and identity. So now that we have speak a bit of the constructivism analysis, a constructivist analysis of this conflict, we can speak about constructivism. A little definition is national the regard national identity as the central concept of international relations, which form and shape national interest. How they perceive their own and how they are perceived by the other countries shape their interests, shape their way of acting in the international community. So here we have not just the states, we have many actors, but for simplify of this presentation, I'm going to present the three more important in my opinion. First, we have the US, that they tend to identify as the ruler power in the international arena, and tends to label North Korea as an irrational and evil state, as a danger and threat to the international stability. On the other, we have North Korea. They tend to create an identity in a status of free, powerful, and a strong state, while seeing the US as colonist constant threat to them, as a colonialist constant threat to them. And we have, for last, NATO. NATO is an institution that contributes shape the members' identity, values, and interests. NATO is a Western institution that unify many of the most important Western countries of Europe, United States, and some in Asia. This institution organization helps to shape the identity of the members, and you see that most of the Western countries start doing the same in the international arena, practically going in the same way, the same path. Here we have a quote that says, North Korea is developing nuclear weapons not just to defend its territory from outside intervention, but also to obtain the status of great power and a respected counterpart to the US in negotiation on the future of the Korean Peninsula. And this theory perspective, North Korea is looking the nuclear weapons not just to defend, as we see it in the realist theory. They are doing it to create their image, to identify themselves as a great power in the world, and the other countries have to identify them as that. So it's kind of using the realist part, because the power is seen in terms of weapons, but it's not the power as I mean, it's the identity given by this power, which is important in this theory perspective. For last, in conclusions, I would like to close the question. It's not that simple to say that North Korea is a threat to the Western hegemony, but yes, we're gonna say that it is, and not just because of the nukes. It's more than that. It's a threat to the Western hegemonic because it's will depends on what theory. We said in the constructivist theory, it identifies as a challenging growing power. So well, we said that it's a threat because not just because of the weapons, because it's willing to challenge that hegemonic power by using weapons, of course, nuclear mass destruction weapons. So to conclude, I will say yes, the North Korea and the North Korean crisis will say that represents the biggest, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, threat to this Western hegemonic. Here's my bibliography, and I hope everything is understood. And goodbye.